everyone. Today I wanted to talk about a really interesting topic. And I noticed most foreigners don't delve into this topic or talk about it. They talk about good and bad things about China. They talk about the business climate. They talk about pollution. They talk about great transportation, how Chinese people behave, that they're nice, all this kind of stuff. But today's topic is much more unique. There's a lot of deep analysis that's in this topic. It's about the myth that Chinese people believe in. The first and most important myth that a lot of people in China, seem to believe in, but it's mainly based on lack of education, is that China is somewhat of it's a pure civilization. That most cultures, they were invaded by other cultures, and they don't know where they originally come from, and their physical appearance, everything completely changed. First of all, I wanted, to talk about this point. This is not true. And I'm going to demonstrate that China was, as a pure civilization, is actually nonsense. And here's how I'm going to prove it. Number one, for it to be a pure civilization, that would mean that China was never occupied by a foreign country, which obviously is not the case. If we look at ancient China, China was invaded twice by foreign occupiers. Once, for example, by the Mongol Empire. And in the modern empire, they were occupied by the British. So that's point number one. So when a foreign empire comes and occupies your country, what ends up happening? They're going to marry your woman, they're going to take over your land, they're going to affect parts of your language, and this did happen. Okay, another point to point out is that cultures continually change. Any civilization, its language always adds new words. Its people migrate to other places, and it shares and even the geography of a country changes. If you look at the different dynasties in China, their geography was different. And if you look at modern China compared to ancient China, its geography is also different. So wait one second. If you're pure, doesn't it mean that your geography will stay the same all the time? Doesn't it mean that you were not influenced by foreign occupiers? So again, if you sit and you analyze this argument, you find out that it's flawed in its very nature. Okay? I know sometimes people don't like to hear certain truths. It's annoying. You don't want to sit and accept realities for what they are, and you were raised to believe in a certain thing, but then it all collapses when you sit and you analyze it and you scrutinize it. Okay? So that's another point. So I think these are very compelling points. Another thing is, usually in countries, they always border other countries. So in many parts of any country, you'll see them speaking multiple languages when they border other countries. So for instance, in the main capital and the surrounding cities, usually the country speaks the same language. But then when it comes to borders of that country, that border other countries, they end up speaking languages of other countries. So does that mean that people who live in the border between the different parts of China and other countries, let's say between China and India, or China and Vietnam, and China and Russia and all these other countries, does this mean that these people who speak these foreign languages are not part of China? They are not pure? So again, I think that these are really important things that one must think about. Where I left off. Well, here's a map of ancient Han Dynasty. If you've noticed, the Han Dynasty is this portion. It's not all of China, right? It's a portion of China. And then you have different peoples. You have the Thai tribes, the Dian tribes, the Burmese people, the Proto-Tibetan peoples. So you had different philosophies, different languages, and different cultures. So when people in China say that we are a pure race and all of this is China, historically that is not accurate. Also look at another empire, the Tang dynasty. You see, you have the Tibetan Empire. It was not a Chinese, it's Tibetan Empire. Tufan, it's not a Chinese, it's a different culture, different empire. And here you have Kashmir. Kashmir, you know, it's part between India and Pakistan. It's a disputed land, etc., etc. And you have the Puro city-states, you have the Thai tribes, and you see, you have different types of empires and dynasties competing with each other. And even other dynasties besides the Tang dynasty, they were in a different geography in China. They were competing with one another. So if you look at China today, it's one huge country. If we want to go back to the past and say we want to go back to our past, then most of China would not be included in the map. Let's see if the Tibetan Empire was Chinese. Okay, so I opened up Wikipedia to read about the Tibetan Empire, and it says that it existed from the 7th century to 9th century when Tibet was unified as a large and powerful empire and ruled an area considerably larger than the Tibetan Plateau, stretching to parts of East Asia, Central Asia, and South Asia. So basically this Tibetan Empire was a part, you know, that had parts of East Asia, Central Asia, and South Asia combined. And that's how the ancient world was. It was empires. There was nothing called a nation state. In fact, the whole idea of a nation state is a European invention. Interesting and relevant. So people asked, where and when did the idea of a nation state originate? In Europe during the 18th century, the classical non-national states were the multi-ethnic empires, the Austrian Empire, Kingdom of France, Kingdom of Hungary, the Russian Empire, the Ottoman Empire, the British Empire, and smaller nations at what would now be called sub-state level. So you see, even the idea of China, which is a nation state, is actually a European creation. The idea of countries having borders and becoming like nationalistic and naming a country, you know, let's say China or America or France or whatever, is actually a creation of Europe. Site that I visited, and I think it's quite unique and quite cool. It's like, it just gives you simple basic information about history. So basically it's talking about empires ruled by foreign rulers or clans and dynasties. So basically this includes a list of empires, kingdoms, and states that were homogeneous majority that were ruled by someone else, not of their empire, not of their, you know, culture, etc., etc. So what do you have? Oh, what do you know? The Yuan dynasty of China. This is when the Mongols ruled the Chinese. Keep in mind that this is ancient empires. The Qing dynasty of China, also by another, they were ruled by other empire. And actually, if you look, this is interesting, like read this part. Alright, whether you're a Mongol, a Turk, and in this case now a Manchu, everybody loves China and just wants to rule over China. This is the case with the Qing dynasty. The dynasty was based on the Manchu people, blah blah blah, people native to blah blah. Manchuria is okay, mainly in that it is very much like Tibet. Many empires, including the Chinese, the Russian, and Japanese empires, have quarreled over this area. So again, look at that. See how empires mix and kill each other and change the geography of each other. This has been going on for for all of humanity. Short, as a conclusion, what do I want to say? Well, before I conclude, I also wanted to add like a few points, which is that, like, if you look at Taiwan and you look at parts of China, they were also invaded by Japan. And Japan infused part of their culture in China. This is especially true in Taiwan. Like, in certain things you could quickly notice it, like the architecture. Japanese architecture did affect Taiwan. Hygiene, the Japanese were extremely precise people, and they really cared about like hygiene to an unbelievable level historically and till today. And that's how Taiwan is actually right now. They're actually quite clean. They're very clean, and they have like a lot of, even their food is affected by Japan. It was influenced by Japan. We can go even more than this. If we look at even Chinese words, there are modern Chinese words that come from Western words. Example, if you, pizza is almost the same exact word in Chinese and in English. Pizza is pizza, but it's not a Chinese word. So wait a second, but it's in the Chinese language. It's in the Chinese modern dictionary. So aren't you a pure language? Aren't you a pure civilization? How could you accept pizza to be in your dictionary? So my point is over here to open people's eyes, to always analyze information, to ask questions, not to just say, okay, I accept this. No, I mean, I just gave you like proof, and I gave you point after point. Of course, I can give you much more like in-depth proof and analysis, and like give you like specific sources and like, but it would be a very long and complicated process. So I just wanted to summarize these points and talk about them. Please, if you have any comments, if you agree or disagree with me, please put your comments down below, and maybe we can have an interesting discussion about this topic.